The office is not dead, but the old way of working that we used to do in an office, that has to change. The purpose of an office, now that we know that people can work remotely for their day-to-day work and their meetings, the purpose of an office becomes even more clear. It's to bring people together. It's to create human moments. I'm John Weeks, Professor of Leadership and Organizational Behavior at IMD. I've been studying organizational cultures and the impact of the office environment on ways of working for over 25 years. But with COVID and the accelerated shift to remote working, our research has turned to studying the impact of remote working on culture. In our study, what we found is that companies were surprised by how easily they were able to make the shift to remote working, at least those where it's actually physically possible. But what we also found was that there were some hidden negative side effects that don't show up at first. It's been relatively easy for companies to shift the individual work and even the scheduled meetings to remote. What is much more difficult is to find through technology ways to recreate those informal, spontaneous, serendipitous interactions of people. Those informal interactions are sometimes not even seen as real work, but they're the spark for collaboration. They're the spark for new ideas. They're the way in which we learn how the culture of an organization works, especially if we are new coming in. So the absence of these informal interactions has an impact on learning, on culture, and on innovation in organizations. The question we're all wondering is, once the COVID restrictions are lifted and we're all able to come back to work, are we going to come back to work? Studies show that a large majority of employees would rather work at least part-time remotely, continuing even once they're able to come back into the office. And so is the office dead? And our answer is no, it's not dead, but it has to change its purpose. So there are three elements for how we need to make this shift, what we need to think about when we're redesigning the office to attract people back. And by the way, that's part of what is going to be important for companies to do. The office is no longer taken for granted as the place where people are spending most of their time. So we need to think about designing the office for human moments, that the office is the place where you're going to reconnect with people. We need to think also about the way in which we're managing people in order to encourage what we want, which are those spontaneous discussions. The office needs to move from being the workplace where you go there, you sit in your cube, you're working, except when you're then going to a meeting, to a culture space. And that means that the office is a place that you come to connect with people. Now that's good for employee well-being, but it's also good for the strength of the culture of the organization, for the learning that people need to do from each other, and for the innovation that's the key to success. I would challenge leaders to ask themselves, is your office designed as a culture space? Is it designed for people? Because that's the way that organizations of the future are going to survive and thrive.